Anxiety is a very uncomfortable feeling, a high level of unsureness about oneself. But where does it come from? How can we resolve it? And what role does ayahuasca play in it? Also, I was able to overcome anxiety, so I only felt anxious about 2 times in the 9 months. So if that's something interesting to you as well, make sure you stay for the whole video. So when I think back about my own story, about 4 years ago, when I was building a video marketing agency, we're working with this crypto company who were setting up a crypto fund, and they were super intelligent and rich Swiss guys, maybe a couple of years older than I was. And when we were having the Zoom calls, I was very nervous. I remember taking a shower before, then sitting on the computer, then seeing that I started to sweat right away. How's my background looking? Was very unsure of myself. And in a way, I didn't feel like I deserved to sit on that table, that I wasn't a part of that group. And we did some work for them, but eventually it didn't go through. And I also feel like it was attributed to part of the self-sabotage that I was doing and not feeling worthy of being in that circle and being anxious around those high-level people, which they must have felt as well. To now I've transformed quite a lot. I feel like I found myself. I know the direction that I'm heading into my life. I'm putting the work in every single day in myself, in my project. And I have professional athletes who have been here. I have had very high level business executives, entrepreneurs here. But when I meet them, I don't feel nervous. I feel very open-hearted with them. Because in the end, they will freeze in the ice bath, they will vomit on the ayahuasca, they will feel happy, they will maybe cry, but that's basically the process that almost everybody goes through that comes here. So why should I feel nervous about them just because they have a higher level of status? But it was really a level of work to get to where I am today. This video is a personal viewpoint on anxiety, mental health, and it's a very delicate topic, just like many things are in today's world. And I feel very grateful living in Colombia because you also encounter people who have some serious problems. They either tell you them or they don't even need to tell you, you see it. And I really wish them from the bottom of my heart their best. And that also taught me to understand that I don't really have problems. I have some certain level of difficulties that I also perceive as problems, but they're not problems. And that perspective helps me a lot. And when talking about anxiety, depression, mental health, specifically in the West, I sense a lot of victim mentality, a lot of putting oneself in a box because of my anxiety, because of my depression, because of my mental health. I cannot do this. But from what I see, so many of that is self-inflicted by the way we choose to live our life that, of course, create that level of unsureness about ourselves. But we'll dive deeper into it throughout the video. So where does anxiety or even depression, mental health issues originate from? And there can be, the difficult ones where we're talking about childhood abuse, about losing somebody who is close to you, about long-term physical health problems, something that drags on maybe even for years. If you are a long-term carer for somebody that you have to, watch out for them for an extended period of time, maybe somebody who's very sick. Also, if you experience significant trauma, like when you were in the military and other things of that nature, it's difficult. And I admit that, and ayahuasca can also help with purging a lot of that heavy energy. You'll feel lighter, but those ones, I can say they're not easy to deal with, but of course there's also ways with that. But again, I feel like the anxiety that most of the people in the West experience do not come from these deep, heavy stuff. Certainly it wasn't for me the case that I was anxious in the meeting with the rich crypto guys. It was because of different reasons. And it can be, and I felt it for myself, having to fit into certain boxes, about comparing myself to others. Of course, if I always compare myself to others, I'm gonna feel inferior. I'm gonna feel like I'm not good enough, and that's gonna translate into my interactions. Also, having very transactional relationships, thinking about, oh, what can that person do for me, and then I want to build a connection with them, or about, hey, I did this for that person, so I'm expecting something there in return. I mean, those things are gonna lead to superficial relationships. Also, if you spend time on X-rated websites, if you spend time a lot on social media, that's not going to be good for your mental health. Another big aspect is not having a clear vision for your life, not having a purpose, not having a direction that you're heading to. That's going to keep you aimlessly wandering. And of course, you don't have that level of stability within. Bad physical shape. I mean, if I'm 20 kilograms, 50 pounds overweight, it's hard to feel good about oneself. It can be issues with parents that are not resolved, and could be with the mom, with dad, with other people who are close to us, specifically family, which we are easy to block out. But in most cases, that's going to affect our inner state tremendously. It's about not expressing how you feel authentically, instead just like swallowing it, not constricting yourself, and again trying to fit into those boxes. It's about losing the connection with nature. It's about losing the connection to the divine within us, to the divinity outside of us. It's about, if you're overthinking the whole time, if you're in the head always thinking about the next problem that will come up, of course you're going to be anxious. It's about having that level of consumer mentality, more, instead of thinking, how can I give more? And also, it can be significant mistakes in the past that you have made, that you haven't forgiven yourself, that you haven't forgiven others who maybe have hurt you. And also resulting through all of this negative self-talk, if you keep on repeating that, that's not going to be good for your anxiety. And then let's look at solutions for that. And I mean, of course, you can say the more obvious ones are do things which are generally good for you. So spend time in nature, learn to manage your feelings, talk to somebody that you trust, get a good amount of sleep, to be kind, and to others, to have something that you can look forward to eat healthy. So those are things that you can do to feel better. But again, I feel like those are still more the superficial ones, and you need to address the things which are one level deeper to really resolve those issues around anxiety, mental health. That's what it was for me. It is about accepting yourself on a deep level of who you are, the good, the bad. It's also about accepting the past. If you want to change the past, if you resist the present, if you resist reality, you're gonna suffer. It's about forgiving yourself. It's about forgiving others, and it's not an easy process. It's about having those difficult conversations about the elephant in the room, which is there. There's also certain ways to have the conversation, certain ways to not have the conversation. If you, for example, put them in a box, if you put a lot of expectation on it, and if you want the person to act a certain way after the conversation, they're going to feel very restricted and like, hey, what do you want from me? But more about that in another video. It's about starting to resolve family conflicts, and which is, of course, very difficult. But, maybe it's not like that you're building the best relationship with your mom or your dad, but you can forgive them. You can accept them that they did the best that they could, even if it's not what you needed at that time. Maybe your needs weren't taken care of, but understanding that they did their best and they have their flaws as well, and still being thankful that they gifted you this life, that you live on this earth. It's about getting in shape. If you're in better shape, you're gonna feel better. It's about, I think this is a very big one, is creating a vision for yourself, creating that level of purpose, and not just to have a nice house or to drive a nice car, but what moves you, what drives you, what type of people do you want to impact, how do you deliver that impact. You're going to feel so much better about yourself if you start contributing to the greater good, to the community, to the people around you. And it's a lot about building that life inside out, about that acceptance, about that self-love, about the self-worth, about the positive self-talk, independently of the things outside of you, and then having that level of self-love extend to the things on the outside. It's about building non-transactional relationships because you resonate with somebody, because you like their smile, you like their being, and building those strong emotional bonds with people where you don't feel like you are always on like measured and all that kind of stuff to be valuable, but that you are accepted, liked, just for the person that you are. It's a lot about gratitude as well. Ties back to the beginning of the video about people living in poverty, people having real problems. And it's not just, gratitude isn't just something that you write on your journal. I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. It's a feeling deep inside of your heart where you're like, hey, no, like, I'm grateful for my health, I'm grateful for this day. There's so many things that we can all be grateful for, and the more we connect with that, even in difficult times, right? Because it's easy to be grateful when things are going well, but when things are not going as well, that's where the challenge starts. And I think that's really the path of, once you accept yourself, once you're comfortable with the person that you are, which I wasn't 4 years ago. And that's why also those things on the outside triggered that level of insecurity within me. But now I know who I am. I know the path that I'm going to, and that's why I don't feel this empowering state of anxiety anymore. And if I do, I know that I'm not doing something right in certain aspects. And these things are deep personal processes. To accept oneself, to forgive people, to forgive oneself, to stop the negative self-talk, to start to cultivate real self-love, to build those non-transactional relationships, to have the courage to express yourself authentically. And many of those things I have started to learn through the ayahuasca ceremonies. And those are things that, if I talk to you right now, they might also make sense to you on a logical level, but it's different to then feel it in your heart. And that's what a huge gift that I've received through my journey with ayahuasca is, to making those deep level of emotional shifts. I'm so grateful for it. And I invite you to, if you feel this calling, to start shifting those things inside of you, so you don't keep on struggling with the same things over and over again, that you come here to Colombia to one of the retreats. I also recommend you watch a video. It's called How Your Soul is Speaking to You Through Ayahuasca. And like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate you lots, and I'll see you in the next video.